Zootopia 2 has come home to Disney Plus.
Let's go!
Get ready for a new case.
We're the greatest partners of all time!
New friends.
Gary the Snake.
And your last name?
The Snake.
Dream Team. Get new habitats.
Zootopia has a secret reptile population.
You can watch the record-breaking phenomenon at home. Zootopia 2, now available on Disney Plus, rated PG. And right now you can get Disney Plus and Hulu for just $4.99 a month for 3 months with a special limited time offer. Ends March 24th. After 3 months, plan auto renews at $12.99 a month. Terms apply.
So, one of the things we would say around here is that every reporter is also a circulator. And as we've seen more and more reporters move toward promoting themselves and being more personality based, which it also means that you're also grabbing subscribers and asking them, whether that's directly or inadvertently, to spend some money and have some skin in the game regarding your publication. And I would say it's important for you to want to promote your publication, promote your work. And look that there's nothing wrong with asking for some money back in order to maintain the journalism you're doing, which, we're big on. We still fight every day. Why is it not free? Well, it can't be. We can't survive on free.
This is Small Press, Big Ideas, a podcast about the business of local news in the United States. I'm your host, Paul Gewertz. Small Press, Big Ideas is about the opportunities and challenges that local news publishers are facing for their businesses. I'll sit down and talk with journalists, entrepreneurs, nonprofit leaders, and more in the local news industry to find out what's working, what isn't, and how the local news ecosystem can innovate and flourish in the 21st century. Today on the podcast, I'm joined by James Bright. James is a general manager and editor at the Texarkana Gazette, which is in Texarkana. Actually, it's confusing. Which state? Arkansas? Because it's kind of the...
Technically, we're in Arkansas by about 5 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, there's two Texarkanas. There's Texarkana, Texas, and Texarkana, Arkansas, and there's no geographical difference between the two. There's literally a road called State Line, which is one of the major thoroughfares here, that divides the two states.
That's funny. I didn't think about that before. Usually it's pretty clear like what state people want to hop on, but
yeah,
literally the name is right in the town there. James, anyway, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I kind of start every episode the same. If you could just tell me and the audience a little bit about your background and career, and in local media and just in general, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. So I went to school for news editorial journalism and graduated in 2011 from an A&M system school in Texas. From there, I was a weekly editor at 2 weekly papers, moved up to become a daily editor a year later. And then about 2.5 years later, I had an opportunity to move to operations, which doesn't happen a lot on the editorial side. But I basically had the opportunity to test the waters with it. So I became a general manager / editor in Oklahoma. And I actually thoroughly enjoyed it, thoroughly enjoying both managing both the business advertising side as well as the editorial side. A year later, that company offered me the opportunity to be a regional publisher and editor. So I took 2 papers in southwestern Oklahoma. Did that for about 3 years. Took a very brief break from the industry for about a year, and then was offered the position to become general manager of the Texarkana Gazette in 2019. And then our editor here retired in 2022, and I assimilated that role into my current role, become editor, general manager, and ad director. So my department head arguments are basically all internal.
That's great. And could you talk just a little bit about the Texarkana Gazette? Like, I don't know, size of the coverage area, size of the organization, just general news reporting, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yes. So we actually celebrated a 150-year anniversary last year, which was a big deal. We did some really neat stuff. We went through each month and printed a 4-page cover for the Gazette, featuring, obviously the more prominent news articles from that month of the past 150 years, but also some of the weird stuff we found. I went through probably 2,000 different articles that I had an intern research at a local library who has all of our microfilm. And was able to showcase basically what the Gazette has done for 150 years. The most fascinating part of that is what passed for journalism, 110 years ago would get us sued pretty much instantaneously tomorrow. It was wild how fast and loose they were with stuff. But today, now looking at what the Gazette is since I became its operator in 2019, we really moved from being a print-focused media to a digital-focused media that also produces a newspaper. In 2020, our parent company, Waco Media, introduced the iPad program here, which they had piloted at the Arkansas Democratic Gazette, which basically we took all of our subscribers and said, if you continue to subscribe to us, we will give you an iPad as a delivery mechanism. And we stopped doing home delivery except for Sundays. It went over incredibly well. We had the vast majority of subscribers took that opportunity and enjoyed their iPads. We did phenomenal customer service that was basically created from a platform perspective from our leader, Walter Hussman, basically going out and talking with the subscribers who are of advanced age and teaching them how to use an iPad. Most of them who like to consume media in that old traditional broadsheet format liked it because they can now zoom in, so they no longer have to, hold it up or hold it away with glasses. It also allowed us to really expand the breadth of our coverage from being more just print-centric to including video, audio. We dabbled with podcasts. We've kind of moved away from that a little bit just because, for whatever reason, in Texarkana, the podcast market is incredibly saturated. So we've kind of moved away from that, and we still do short-term form video, specifically for Facebook, Instagram, and different social media, as well as our website, while maintaining fundamental journalism that made us over the last 150 years.
Very cool. I like that kind of project you talked about, going through 150 years of archives and going through all this stuff. It's funny, this morning I was working on a project for this podcast, which is 2 years old. And I was going back and putting everything in a database so I could just kind of search everything. And that took me a long time. I cannot imagine going through 150 years of like print archives and like what kind of went into that. That's really cool though.
It was, it's one of, yeah, it was a huge project, but it was one that didn't feel like work, I guess, because it's, you work in industry for 20 years like I have. And we obviously, the changes and how we disseminate news over the last few years has been radical, but just the way that we covered news and looking at people who, were our forebears was fascinating. But the best part was, I don't know, it was September, October, I came across an editorial that was printed in 1885 by the editor at the time. And it was as apropos today as it was then about basically moving back towards civility and embracing education and embracing new technology while also maintaining our humanity. And I was like, man, this is wild that this guy's stretched across 140 years as editorial. You run today and make just as much sense. So, except for some of the lingo, which was, he used the term codfish aristocracy, which was like, well, that probably wouldn't play well today, but back then it did.
That's funny. Yeah. You could throw it out there. Maybe not a great idea. So I had some questions worked up, but you kind of sparked my curiosity. When it's funny, I had put it together when you said, when I kind of looked at your LinkedIn or whatever, and it said general manager and editor, but the way you framed it is, you have a foot in editorial and a business side. And like a theme on this podcast has really been like that divide and how divided it used to be in like news organizations, and how it needs to be more like wearing multiple hats going forward, just in the new economy and everything like that. Right. So you sit in an interesting spot. I kind of putting you on the spot here. Do you have any like advice for one side or the other in terms of how for a reporter to think about the business side and vice versa, like from where you're sitting?
Yeah. So it's funny. In college, I was the editor of my college newspaper, as most people are in J school at some point. And I wanted to do this really big publication in December, a special Christmas publication, much special pages, much sections. And I came close to bankrupting the paper and the amount of money I spent in pages and things like that, because I didn't know anything about the business side. And I think that is the general consensus with most reporters and most people on the editorial side, because they don't consider the business side. And what I found is that leaves you blind, pretty blind in one eye, as far as not just understanding the health of your paper, but also the health of your job. So as I've grown in my career, obviously I was thrown in when I started as an operator. Advertising was the key, and we've kind of shifted more toward a audience-based revenue platform, with advertising being additional income. So, one of the things we would say around here is that every reporter is also a circulator. And as we've seen more and more reporters move toward promoting themselves and being more personality based, which 20 years ago you hated, you didn't want your name to be a focal point of a story. It also means that you're also grabbing subscribers and asking them, whether that's directly or inadvertently, to spend some money and have some skin in the game regarding their publication. And I would say, for a young reporter, even reporters who are advanced, who've been doing it for a while, it's important for you to want to promote your publication, promote your work. And looked at, there's nothing wrong with asking for some money back in order to maintain the journalism you're doing, which, we're big on. We still fight every day. Why is it not free? Well, it can't be. We can't survive if it's free. So, and then for editors to move over to operations, I always lead with my editorial brain first. Any decision I make is done from an editorial perspective. So that means I'm going to lose an advertiser, lose a customer, lose a subscriber, lose whatever the case may be, and I accept that I'm going to lose that person, and I push forward with the editorial decision. And that has yet to leave me astray.
Very cool. So I love that you lead with the editorial brain. That the final product's kind of like the stuff going out on the page. But this show definitely has themes on like the business side too, sustainability, innovation, etc. And you said you are in charge of like revenue generation also.
Yes.
What's, just out of curiosity, I like having other people from different, like what's ringing, like don't share numbers or anything obviously, but like what are the main revenue drivers? You said audience, like subscriptions. I'm guessing you have advertising. Is there anything else, experiments you're running or stuff you're doing? Yeah.
So I would say we have, without getting into details about specific products with each different vertical, you have audience, you have general advertising, which you divide into both print and digital, and then you have philanthropy, which is something we started last year. Those three pillars are basically what prop up the Gazette at this point. The most common one that people I think assume is, we're raking in dollars of advertising, which, we're not, as pretty much every year we reduce to some degree in advertising. I will say we are growing on the digital side advertising wise, which is great, and which is the direction we want to go. And specifically with my market, which is, roughly 67,000 in the metropolitan area and about 160,000 MSA. We really focus on smaller buys for our SMBs. So looking at display advertising, email branding, social media prompts and branded posts. I'm a big fan of branded content. We have a couple of different products throughout the year that utilize branded content, but I like to use it throughout the year, just in general, to try and produce editorials and things of that nature, because it's something that creates, obviously, it's branded and shown to be paid advertising, but it creates interesting content for our subscribers. It also gives the customer something that they could post on their respective websites and social media. So I'm a huge fan of that on the advertising side. On the circulation side, you have tiered approaches, whether that's digital only, whether that's $1 for 6 months and then go into full rate at that point, or the iPad program where you subscribe and you get an iPad with your subscription, so that you can read the paper 7 days a week in that traditional format, and then have it delivered Sunday. And then the philanthropic one was one that we really just dipped our toes in the last year. It's asking both businesses and individual donors to support the Gazette beyond a advertising or a circulation contract, but to say, hey, in order for us to not only maintain but to grow, we need your help and we need you to financially support us. Great example of this is correspondence budgets. It's the easiest thing to cut. You don't have to cut a reporter to cut correspondence budgets. Well, if you have philanthropic donations, that can support your correspondent budget. Another example we used last year is travel. We had a band that was invited, one of our local high school bands, to play at the inauguration. And so we paid a reporter to basically go up there and follow them around in DC. It was, I can't remember the total, $3,000 or $4,000, but for us to save a lot of money, especially in January when we try to keep our bells people. And philanthropic donations allow us to do that.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Very cool. Yeah, cool. I was like, it's just interesting because I talk to people from different nonprofit, for-profits, huge metros, tiny places. So it's interesting just seeing. Did I ask you? You said Texarkana is 67,000 or something like that. Is that? Could you talk a little bit about like your just kind of the community and stuff? Like,
yeah, for sure.
What that looks like economically, size-wise, stuff like that.
I would say I've worked in, I think, 5 communities at this point, and Texarkana is by far the most unique for a couple of reasons. One, because it is on a state line. You have 2 cities that sit in one geographic area, Texarkana, Texas, Texarkana, Arkansas. Texarkana, Texas is the bigger of the two, but you have two different city governments, two different county governments, two different police forces that have interlocal agreement, two different fire departments. There's some pay parity there in order to maintain one or the other. You have two different developments, different tax rates. It's really a unique situation and requires a lot of work on the reporting end to make sure that we're covering things equally and accurately. So for Texarkana, that's from a municipal government standpoint, what it looks like from a population standpoint. It's mostly blue collar. There is a little white collar, mostly blue collar jobs. And it's basically divided from the northwest to the southeast as far as developments go, with most of the more newer developments going in the northwest and slow progress in the southeast.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's another reason I love doing this podcast. I've definitely never heard that situation. Literally straddling two states like that. I hadn't even thought about it before, really,
Yeah, it's very unique. I mean, it's my mother gets a kick out of this. She'll ask for even Texas and Arkansas, and if I'm talking to her, I'm like, well, I got to walk across the street to get something notarized at the courthouse. I'm like, so right now I'm in Arkansas, but I'm about to cross the street and go to Texas. So she gets a kick out of that.
I took my, we were talking before I was talking about my kids. I have 4-year-old twin boys, and we're in Southwest Colorado, and we went on a trip to the Four Corners last summer. They loved that. They made us stay in 4 different states. Yeah, all right there, and they would jump over the borders and stuff. That's what that reminds me of. It's fun.
We have actually at the old post office / courthouse where you could stand in 2 states, and they have a photo thing that you can take and what. Yeah, it's cute. It's one of our big tourist attractions.
That's funny. So it's 2026, so I'm legally required to ask you about AI because that's just what everybody talks about these days and everything. But I do like getting everybody's take on it, and I have to stop using that line because I've used that in too many episodes now. But I do like getting everybody's take, like overall thoughts on it, and if you're using any tools, and if so, what for? Like what processes you're using them for, and everything. I'd like to hear about that.
Yeah. So we are using it. We use it sparingly as we can. And we try to make sure that we use it in a way that it can't really learn from what we're doing or take any of our data. One of the major ways we're using it right now, we have a publication we started in the fourth quarter of last year called Noticias en Español, which is basically the Gazette in Spanish. And we do bi-weekly publications that we deliver to 16 Spanish businesses, Spanish-owned businesses in the community. And then we also have a specifically Spanish landing page that we translate our content written in English to Spanish for Spanish speakers. We do some marketing on social media, things like that to draw people in. What we use AI for it is we have 2 Spanish-speaking staff members, and instead of having them manually translate, we have AI translate the stories, and then they go back in and clean it up and make sure it's accurate. And that's effectively, really cut down the time and allows us to do this project. Otherwise, it would be basically someone's entire job having to translate and design and place the content. So that's our big usage of it right now. We may ask it occasionally as far as appropriately SEO in a headline or something like that, but we've moved away from that. We used to do that. And I think we've honestly just gotten better at it. As a staff, I've had the best SEO headlines. So that's what we use the most of it as of right now. I don't foresee us using it a lot more than that right now, just because, like most people, we're a little trepidatious about it and where it can go, what it can do, at least in 2026. But we sparingly use it really for content editing as a starting point before a human takes over and effectively exchange. Personally, a lot of reporters use Otter for recording. I use Otter for recording when I do interviews, and I have noticed that over the years it's figured out. It was something called it used to think Texarkana was Texas Cans. And I did an interview with a Venezuelan local, someone who was from Venezuela who teaches really locally. And I noticed that it recorded Texarkana as Texarkana. So somewhere along the way, it has figured out that Texarkana is not Texas Cans, which I thought was interesting. That's the first time that I figure something out over the course of time.
Huh, that's interesting. Yeah, that comes up a lot, kind of copy editing. Otter comes up all the time on this podcast. I use it all the time too for most transcribing and stuff like that is super, super helpful.
Oh, super. Yeah.
Yeah. I I've been asking this to everybody. So flash forward 5 years. In your opinion, like where do you see yourself, personally in your career, and also where do you see your publication? Just given the trends, how fast everything's changing, it's a big, kind of tough question, but I like getting different people's takes on that as well.
Sure. Yes. So since we're corporately owned, there's some degree of where Waco wants to go is where the Gazette goes. Do we? I would say probably the biggest, most radical change that we'll see with the Gazette is I don't know if we'll continue doing a Monday through Saturday print edition. We still do print edition every day, and we do single copy sales Monday through Saturday if you're local grocery stores and gas stations. And honestly, I kind of view it as a good thing. Sales in those have decreased based steadily over the last 3 or 4 years since we went to the iPad program, but we've seen an increase in unique visitors and page views on the website. So I would rather have people going to the website than picking up, a single copy of the paper. Obviously, it's significantly more expensive for us to print the paper, have it delivered, have it trucked from Little Rock or where to print it, and then obviously you have the payment aspect of doing returns and things like that when you pay a business.
Mm-hmm.
So it's it's a lot. I don't anticipate any time in the near future in 5 years that we would lose the Sunday paper for many reasons. But I think that will be a hallmark. I do think that as people continue to evolve the way they consume media, I don't know if it makes sense to continue writing. We've even moved away from writing 20-inch stories and 25-inch stories unless they really need to be in depth. Because people don't engage with that. They engage with the 10-inch story. And it's funny you even say that because, you go to J school, you learn that, if you get someone to read the headline, you're doing well. If you get someone to read the lead, you're doing really well. If you get into the graph, well, you've blown out pretty much every story in the paper. So this is not new. The way people consume media is that they just read headlines. They did that in newspapers when there were only newspapers. But I think moving more toward that direction digitally to say, hey, here's a photo, here's a multimedia element, whether that's video or audio, or an engagement tactic, whether it's a poll and here's, 7-8 inches on something with hyperlinks. So if you want to learn more, you can click on it and get more into our ecosystem. I think that's probably how content will be disseminated. And we're already doing quite a bit of that already. So it'll just continue to grow from here. The big question for me, and it's I think it's a question for most of my colleagues we have on the financial aspect, is people who, are 25 to 45 who are Instagram Reels, TikTokers, things like that, who consume media in 2-minute segments. We kind of branched into that, especially with Instagram Reels, but we haven't monetized it. So is there a way to monetize it? Is there a way to control the means of production and turn that into something that is financially beneficial as well as content beneficial? Because right now it's only content beneficial. And you could argue that's good for branding. And I think that, one of my arrogant points is, well, we've been around for 150 years. We really need to brand ourselves. But it does come up like, I didn't know because that was even still around. I was like, really? Okay. So it is good for us to reach out on those platforms.
Yeah, it's funny you bring up the term I've been using because it is vertical video, but basically Reels, TikTok, all that stuff. I in my business, we traditionally have done podcasts for local media outlets, and then like the last year I've had people just talking about vertical video. So I was like, I put up a post like, hey, does anybody want to experiment with this? And I got so much interest in it. It's clearly it's interesting you brought it up. It's a trend that's happening. Yeah. The question is how to get people off of those platforms. They don't want to let people off of their platforms, or people just read, like you said, just read the headlines. But listen to the podcast for your own. I'm having a guy on he's up in Toronto. I haven't recorded it yet, but he is leaned really into just the vertical video stuff for his publication, and it's completely exploded. He's monetizing like crazy now. It's going to be a really interesting one. I'm gonna send that to you when it goes live too. If you're interested, it should be really interesting. I'm going to dig into that with him.
Yeah, I mean, so that's one of those examples of where reporters are like, well, yeah, it's neat, especially my younger reporters, like, this is neat. This is kind of why anyway. I like to do the vertical video aspect of it, do the TikTok and the Instagram. Right. I know me, I'm like, well, if it doesn't make any money, I don't really care about it. But if he's found a way to find value at it, monetize it. I can't wait to listen to that because he might want.
I know this guy. I mean, granted, he is in Toronto, which is a much bigger city, so I don't know if the economics are different there. But it sounds like he invested a good amount of money, but it sounds like he's doing pretty well. Anyway, I'm excited for that conversation. Obviously, I brought it up. Also, I'll let you know.
And losing the means of production.
Cool. That's everything I had.
What's up?
Sorry, I think we have a delay. Sorry, I'll stop talking.
No worries.
Say what you're gonna say. Sorry.
Yeah, so personally for me, losing the means of production and being able to control how that money is allocated is where I'm like, well, even if we were to like somehow set something up to where money was flowing in from Instagram or YouTube or whatever for the video, we don't control it, and that's uncomfortable for me. Which I imagine is for most publishers.
Yeah, I feel you on that.
Yeah, you're accustomed to controlling the means of how you disseminate your content.
Absolutely. All right, James. This has been very cool. That's everything I had put together, but please let me know what you want me to promote, where people can find you, what you want me to link to in the show notes, all that stuff. And I'll make a note of it and put it in the show notes. But yeah, where can people find you online?
LinkedIn. I mean, that's, my Facebook. I have a Facebook page, but basically it's just private for friends and family. And all is a picture of my kids. I'm a huge Yankees fan, the Yankees. So, and that's it. But yeah, LinkedIn is anything professional related.
Okay, cool. I'll link to that, and I'll link to the Texarkana Gazette too, so people can. Did I say that wrong? Texarkana Gazette.
Texarkana. You got nailed it. Yeah, I was going to kick out. Cool. Get a call from someone who's trying to promote or buy something or sell you something, and it's clear they haven't read their script or who they're calling next. I get it. They're running now a whole line of people, right? And they land on the Texarkana Gazette, and they like the text, and they just stop, and that's it. They're like, how do I say this? Yeah. What really blew my mind, I used to work at a place in Oklahoma, Chickasha, Oklahoma, and it's spelled Chickasha. It's a Choctaw word. But the amount of people who just butcher that was unbelievable.
It's funny. I don't know what it is with Texas. I've talked to a lot of people in Texas on this show and everything. Some weird names down in Texas. I mean, I guess you're Texas and Arkansas, but I've seen a bunch of them that if I read them, I was talking to somebody yesterday from Pflugerville with a PF on the front of it.
Yeah.
And Bernie, but looks like it should be Born. I'm like, I don't know what's going on down there. You guys have your own dialect or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. James, thanks so much, man. This has been great, and thanks for taking the time. Hope you have a great day.
You too. Thank you, Paul, so much. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you for listening to Small Press Big Ideas. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you'd like to help the show, the best thing you can do is to tell a friend or colleague and just take a few minutes to leave a rating and a review on whatever platform you're listening to right now. It only takes a minute out of your day, but it really does help the podcast grow and reach more ears. Check back for new episodes every Monday.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.